Release the floor here to Rachel.
We did want to just give an opportunity to homeowners to share anything that you guys have on your minds. We know there have been a lot of frustrations over the years, I think especially since meetings stopped happening back in 2017. And so we just wanted to give a bit of a platform if anybody wants to share anything, if you have questions, grievances, concerns, complaints, really anything. Give you guys a chance to speak before we kind of started on our share of the presentation. The only thing we would ask is that we keep it civil and short-ish. 3 minutes would probably be good, just so we don't run over time. But yeah, floor is yours if anybody would like to share.
I'll start it off. That letter we got on May 4th, where it was put in there that you had to be a police officer, you had to know how to do all that. That's not true. I never had to do anything. And being like a policeman or asphalt work, I did some grass cutting, but that's on them. And they put it in there like you have to know how to do asphalt. And it isn't that way. You know, you take care of the street, the snow removal, and the lights mainly. And maybe tell people that they got too many junk cars in your yard.
I don't think I remember this letter. Is this like qualifications to be a trustee?
Yes.
And so, I don't know, did you get the letter?
With
I don't remember.
excessive quotes.
I got the letter here, you can look at it.
Yep, we didn't get
But I
one of
think
those.
it was a scare tactic. And
think
from
only
what I
select
understand,
people
few
get
people
mail.
backed off.
I agree.
I share your thoughts about that, that it seems
I
like
also
we're,
think the supposed vote for the raising of the dues was stacked. Because I know I sent my vote in, and I voted yes, because
Sure.
it's not enough money. You don't have enough money to
Right.
take care of our subdivision.
right,
So,
and there's indiscrepancies, there's inconsistencies in the voting processes
Yes.
that they pick and choose what they want to accept, and they're inconsistent as far as overall. But we'll get into those
I
explanations.
want to make sure that Frank gets the chance to finish whatever
Okay,
his
well, it's
comments
just
were.
what that letter, it was a scare tactic, and I just wanted everybody to know, the job is considerable, but it's not that hard, okay? And,
She's taken on a lot of responsibilities upon herself
Yeah.
that were not part of that job description.
I am not a computer person, but she took all the paperwork, and
Yeah.
she took over, and we gave it to her, and from what I heard, she put it all on the computer and threw all the paperwork away. So
So,
all the
yeah.
records that we had going back, she threw them away, and supposedly has them online. You can give me $500 and I can't get into that computer to find out. I'm not a computer person. And so, I just think we need to get something better that we all work together. We wanna make our house better. My neighbor says across the street, he's gonna move because there's too many junk cars. And everything, since he's been there, it's just went downhill. Now they're wanting to move.
And thank you, Rachel, for keeping us on track, because you're exactly right.
Did you want to jump in and add anything?
no, I totally interrupted you, I apologize, but
No.
I totally feel that we are told what they want us to know, that they are not honest about a lot of things, and I believe that certain people get mail and certain people do not. I believe that the vote was stacked, and I believe the whole trustee thing with the other guy becoming a trustee, I don't even know who he is.
Randy
You know?
Lovelady, yeah, he's the second house from the last.
I mean,
on the
I don't
street.
speak badly of them, I honestly don't know them. The only contact I've had with our trustees has been extremely negative, downright mean at times. you know, but we're kind of the redheaded stepchildren of the subdivision
But
anyway.
homeowners, to your point, homeowners weren't given an opportunity to meet him. Homeowners that were not given an opportunity to meet him, talk to him, vote on him.
No,
And so it was all just very much us
They-
being told now what the situation
they
is.
claim that he was the only one nominated, but I don't believe that either.
That, yeah, other people wanted to have a spot to have everyone vote on them, and that wasn't approved for XYZ reasons that Dee gave, and then it was just kind of decided that he was the only one, so then he just automatically got to be the new trustee.
And we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about what our bylaws say specifically about the process for electing trustees. Because we are seeing some inconsistent patterns in terms of what we're told the voting process is in our subdivision versus what our bylaws actually say. So we will get more into that. Would we all agree that the communication issue in our subdivision is less than ideal?
Agreed.
Would we all be in agreement on that?
We all agree.
Yeah, there does seem to be some inconsistency in who's getting information, how often information is actually sent out. The fact that we're still receiving everything via post is a bit of a problem in 2026 as well. So it's a big topic, and I think we'd all agree that it needs to be addressed and improved.
Mhm. Yeah, I didn't get that letter, but I sure got a card from her telling her and Randy wouldn't be here and this wasn't an official meeting. I sure got that in my mailbox,
I got that one also.
but I didn't get that
And what the
at
heck?
all.
What grade are you in? Did you ever leave school? Seriously, we're all adults here.
And they
you
were
know.
welcome to come.
Everyone's welcome to
You
be
know.
here if you own a home in the subdivision.
Well, don't be voting on anything,
Oh my
cause
God.
I have cameras here somewhere.
A couple of years ago, they put another speed bump in front of our house. And so everyone has to stop now to go, then we see everybody and it's stopping. And she was sitting on our yard when it was going on. I walked out there and I go, what are you doing? And they go, oh, we're putting a speed bump here. And I go,
Oh, yeah.
should we had a meeting about that and discussed it? And she goes, and then the other guy, his name was Chuck, he goes, we can do whatever we want because we get different opinions from everybody. And I go, well, this is our yard, you're even sitting on my yard while you're painting. I go, I think we should have been notified that the speed bump is coming. And they were really rude.
We will talk a little bit more in depth about the process for making decisions in the subdivision, that it is a problem that we haven't had a subdivision meeting since 2017. That is kind of at the very foundation of our ability to have a voice as a community, is just to be able to participate in these meetings. And so that is something we're going to talk about, and that putting in a speed bump probably is something
Yeah.
that should have been voted on in a meeting. And just because there are disagreements within the community on what should or should not happen, does not relieve them of the duty to hold a legitimate subdivision vote on individual matters.
Just the things that they have the right to do anything, you know?
And to that point, in the previous, trial meeting that they attempted to have a long time ago that I recorded, but I took it down for privacy purposes, she did voice in that meeting that she just wants to have the authority without anyone coming to her, and that was recorded. I still have all of that as well. I took it down for, privacy concerns.
2 years ago,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
Years ago,
something
2
like
years
that.
ago.
Yeah.
If I might
Sure.
add, did anyone sign up for trustees as far as wanting to be voted in? None?
We
Okay.
didn't even get a letter.
Oh, okay, so, reality hits. Okay, we've got 2 trustees that are working the street. They're patching the holes as they pop up, painting or whatever services, and it's free. So the economic picture changes for us quite a bit if we contract services, you know, out. And I don't know, I'm unwilling to do that physical labor. I'm not interested. I've done my contribution as a trustee years ago. It's a thankless job. I don't think the trustees are embezzling funds. I took a look at the bank statements. I asked for those records and they gave them to me. I think they are doing the best they can with what they have. They're rude and obnoxious, but they're accomplishing patching holes, and they're coordinating services. So we, you know, if we press too hard and we lose that resource, who else is gonna step up, is my question.
Can I counter on that, just on the flip side, because
Sure.
some of the roads need to be redone anyway, so if we were to raise the dues, we would be able to contract. Because it seems like they're repairing some of the same hole over and over.
Yes.
Which, and I agree, they are filling some of what their duties are within what they have. But it's one of those, like, fix it, or like, pay for it once, you know, otherwise we're gonna continue to fix and like, you know, just yes and no.
Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid
Yes.
kind of concept, yes.
We're definitely going to speak a little bit more about the dues issue, because the fact that we are still only paying $150 annually in dues and have been since 2003, while inflation has continued to skyrocket, means that in 2003, we probably had the money to contract this work out. The only reason why they're doing it themselves and why they're saying that another trustee would have to fill potholes themselves is because we no longer have the money coming in every year for those contracts. And it did appear from last year's vote on raising dues that, I mean, the vast majority, it was all but 2 people or
Yeah.
properties that cast a vote, voted in favor of raising the dues. The problem is when we can't even get 50% of homeowners to cast a vote. You know, and that is, I'll talk a little bit more about this later. Dee said we needed 2/3 majority vote. We do not. It is a simple majority on raising dues. So we were only short by like 6 votes.
Is that
To
falls
raise
with the
dues.
communication thing?
Sorry?
The communication barrier, is that what this falls to then?
Yeah, and we teamed up, and so we're not trustees, but we were trying to cultivate those votes. We went house to house. And it's difficult. A lot of people don't want to be bothered. You know, don't bother me. They're not interested. They have other objectives. So it's a difficult process to get 50% of the homes even to respond. You know, so that's a challenge that we'll have to, but we'll, I know we were covering a lot of problems, but we're hoping to offer some potential solutions and try to cultivate other potential solutions.
I just want to clarify something you just said, because I want to make sure I understand. So you're saying we need 2/3 of the votes casted to
No.
win a vote?
No.
We need 2/3 of the homeowners.
Yeah. So
to
our
approve something.
bylaws specify so there are 3 places where we vote. It's for electing trustees, changing bylaws, and raising dues. The only vote that requires a 2/3 majority, and it's a 2/3 majority of all homeowners, all properties, is changing the bylaws.
So 2/3 have to respond, and we have to have the majority of them to say yes to increase the dues.
We
No,
need
no, to,
2/3
change
majority
the
of
bylaws.
homeowners to
So-
vote yes.
Of the,
Oh.
I think 57 properties in the neighborhood, it requires 2/3 of that 57
And
to
for
change the bylaw.
raising dues and electing trustees, our bylaws only say a majority of homeowners, so that's a simple majority, that's 51%. So like last year's vote to raise dues, We were not as short on yes votes as we actually, as would be required to then raise the dues.
So just to raise the due, so the two that just need a simple majority, if there's 57 homes, is it occupied homes or just 57 homes that are in the subdivision?
It's of homeowners.
Okay, so assuming the 57, 51% is 29 homes, and then, 2/3, call it 66%, 57, would be 30, round up 38 houses.
Yeah. So that's quite a difference between a simple majority and a super majority. I know we're kind of popcorning around to a bunch of different issues at this point. No, and that's totally fine. What we're gonna try to do in the next portion is systematically kind of work through some of these big issues.
So I have a question
Sure.
about, like, in terms of the amount of votes needed per how many houses are in the neighborhood. How does that work with, like, the renters? Because I know obviously they're not homeowners, but like the people that own those properties, like, where does their role fit in for all of this?
Well, I think probably in the initial vision for a neighborhood like ours, you would not have such a high percentage of properties that are rental properties. And so, you know, all of the homeowners for the most part would be living on those properties. And, but at this point, I think we have, to the best information we have available, and we are working on somewhat limited information because we're not trustees. We don't have access to all of the documents that Dee has access to. But to the best of our understanding, out of the 57 properties, I think 11 of them potentially are rental properties. And so the owners of those properties have all the same rights to vote and be involved as we do. The difficulty is that the likelihood of them actually taking the time to attend a meeting or cast a vote is dramatically lower even than how low it already is for those homeowners who live in the subdivision.
Yeah.
So there really is no difference in their rights. The difference is in just the likelihood of them being involved.
And it's just harder to get in contact.
Yeah.
Well, I know one of them doesn't even live in the state.
Yeah.
One of the homeowners that lives right by you guys, that rents that house to Brandon and Kayla, they don't even live here.
I think a couple of them
They
are
live
registered
like
under investment
way
companies.
across the country and just own it as an investment
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
So,
So that does change the math a little bit in terms of
can we
who we can
email
expect to
votes?
respond.
We would like to change those parameters to where it's easier to vote. It's just without the cooperation from the existing trustees, that's very difficult to do.
I think emailing, you would probably be able to get votes from those people, because it's easy to email something.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I think that also just, it goes back to the general communication issues in our subdivision, that all business, all communication is still happening through USPS. And there are much better ways of communicating, much cheaper ways of communicating, much more, I think there's still kind of an idea lingering that doing everything through mail creates more of a paper trail, when actually the opposite is true. Sending things via email creates a permanent digital record. There's more of a paper trail for doing things online in many respects. So yeah, just the way that communication and business happens in the subdivision is not where it could be in 2026. But again, unless you're a trustee, unless you're in that position, there's really very little that we can do to try to improve and update the way that things are managed.
Do we want to start working through that?
Probably. Any last remarks or questions or concerns? It kind of seems like most of us who have concerns are, it's a lot of the same concerns.
Mhm.
So that's good.
The biggest concern is just like all the gatekeeping, the lack of communication, because it doesn't seem like there's any room for anything to happen with the people that are in place. So I'm interested to see, you know, what you guys have to discuss.
It is a little warm in here, I apologize. I
It's
asked the
kinda
front
warm.
desk if she could turn the AC down, and she doesn't have the access code, so. Okay. I'm gonna start with the topic of electing trustees. It is, the most recent topic that has come up in the subdivision, since she put out that letter in May asking for people to submit their interest in becoming a trustee. And as far as we have been able to gather, there's been no follow-up information on that letter. Would that be correct? Has anybody gotten any follow-up information on the trustee election process?
Nope.
Okay. So we aren't sure if that means that no one expressed an interest.
From the letter that was put out, that's not surprising. I would, anybody that wanted to do that, you know, wouldn't want to volunteer to be a ditch digger or,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm not surprised that discouraged people from throwing their hat in the ring.
It's valuable to let people know what the job entails. But that letter did come across as overwhelming and not realistic in what the actual responsibilities of a trustee would be, or should be, given the situation where a subdivision is financially stable enough to contract some of that work out. So, I apologize, there is so much. We could really easily spend the rest of this meeting just outlining all of the various issues and ways in which our trustees have not been fulfilling their duties and responsibilities. And I think it's worth just remembering that in a subdivision, trustees are here to serve the interests and desires of the homeowners. There has been a bit of an attitude of we kind of just run this place and we don't owe anything to anybody, but that's just not how the role of trustee works. That's not the understanding that any subdivision in the United States has of trustees. Even though we do know that some subdivisions end up falling into that trap where the trustees are kind of ruling. We are gonna try to address the kind of the big picture problems. There are so many individual little nitty-gritty details we could get into, but that would take a long time. So we'll try to just stick with kind of the big picture. And in many respects, our subdivision has suffered from weak and inconsistent governance since it was first developed in the 60s. And the problems that we're seeing today are in part a result of 60 years of decisions and things that should have been done along the way that were not done, improvements that should have been made that were not made. But we can only control what is happening right now. So I want to just kind of focus as much as possible on where we are in terms of our rights as homeowners at the moment and clarify what our governing documents say, because there seems to be a lot of confusion. In the conversations we've had, there seems to be a lack of clarity and consistency in just what we as homeowners understand the subdivision laws to be. And that's not entirely our fault, because our governing documents are a mess. They're antiquated, they're messy, and
Hard to read.
hard to read.
And
They're
they've
just
been
very
used
hard
to
to
be
read.
weaponized against us as well, falsely.
Yeah.
So that doesn't
Um,
help either.
So, I'm gonna try to stick to the section of our subdivision restrictions that deals specifically with the trustees. Our restrictions really provide only a very basic outline for the authority and responsibilities of trustees, and it's largely because these were written in 1962, before all of the plots had even been purchased out of our subdivision. So this was meant to be sort of like a starting document. It was our first draft to get the subdivision off the ground. And the language in our documents indicate that there was a belief or assumption that they would be revised, they would be expanded. There would be additional details added to bring greater clarity to the actual situation of our subdivision. As far as we can tell though, apart from amendments having been added over the decades, that revising and clarifying and expanding of our documents never happened after 1962, after the initial version. Most of the information for trustees comes from restriction 11 in our bylaws. And this is from 1962, again, before all the lots have been sold. I have pulled out the most relevant portions, and forgive me, I'm just gonna read them to you and try to highlight some of the main points as they come through. All right, so restriction 11 says, after all lots in the subdivision are sold by the undersigned owners, a meeting shall be called by the then trustees or by any one or more of the lot owners in the subdivision for the purpose of electing a board of trustees consisting of not more than 3 persons, each of who shall be the owners of at least one improved lot of the subdivision, who shall be elected by the owners of a majority of the lots. This is about the only place in our restrictions that talks about how many votes are required to elect a trustee. All it says is a majority of lot owners. So that's where we're getting the simple majority principle. It does say that a meeting can be called, or at least it sets a precedent in the language here that a meeting can be called by any one or more lot owners.
And
So-
that's why we're here
Yeah.
now. It's not sanctioned, but we can call these meetings as we please.
So, yeah, that's where we're kind of getting our authority to even be here today, even though Dee says that it's not legitimate.
I'm just throwing, this is America, and I don't answer to you. I can have a meeting with my fellow neighbors if I want to.
Absolutely.
Just saying.
Exactly.
And especially after we've given it a number of years, right? 2017, 9 years down the road, you know, we've given her plenty of chances to hold a meeting, and so.
After the last meeting, she made it where she wasn't going to do it again. Like,
Yeah.
she made it clear that that was not gonna happen.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like
So-
2 years ago, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was an informal, that wasn't exactly a sanctioned and formal meeting.
In her letter announcing that gathering, she made it pretty clear that it was not a HOA meeting, but more of a
Meet and
meet your
greet.
neighbors kind of a get together.
Okay, so, one or more lot owners can call a meeting. This is where the trustees are going off the principle that there can be no more than 3 trustees. But our subdivision bylaws put a cap on the number of trustees, but they don't give a minimum. So just keep that at the back of your head, because I am going to address that issue concerning, when it comes to looking at the Missouri laws. And then elected by the owners of a majority of the lots. That is a simple majority, 51% of owners, and shall serve without pay. The qualifications and terms of office of such trustees and their rights, powers, and duties, in addition to the rights, powers, and duties herein set forth, shall be fixed in such manner from time to time as the majority of the lot owners may determine. So there is kind of that language, it's looking ahead, it's looking ahead to when the board is more established, the idea that the community will come together from time to time to add greater clarity and detail and specificity to the role of the trustees. And it seems as though, apart from a couple of amendments, that process never happened. So they were never sufficiently updated or revised to be more specific and clear about such details as qualifications for trustees or like trustee term limits or anything like that. Each lot owner present in person or by duly authorized agent at such meeting or at any other duly called meeting of lot owners shall be entitled to 1 vote for each lot owned by him in this subdivision. I think that we're all pretty clear on that. One lot, 1 vote. I think we've all been operating on that principle. Notice of such meeting to elect said trustee shall be posted in at least 3 conspicuous places in the subdivision at least 5 days prior to such an election. So the idea of posting the 3 signs like we have in the subdivision at least 5 days prior, this is the part in our bylaws where we were kind of operating, making sure that we were at least in accordance with this little description of how meetings should be called. This is specifically to elect a trustee, but unfortunately, because our bylaws are so skeletal, in many respects, they're very thin and vague. This is the only place that actually gives any clear guidance for the proper calling of a meeting. The trustees shall have any and all authority in the handling of the funds collected and the expending of the same as the city council of a 3rd-class city under the laws of the state of Missouri. So it is establishing that the position of trustee is an official one, and it does carry authority and weight, especially in financial matters. But unfortunately, it does require kind of going outside our bylaws and to the more like the state laws, state guidance over associations, to give us a little bit more detail on what that actually means. So that is mostly what our bylaws say about trustees. There's not a whole lot there. It is very vague. And so this is where I think we are seeing where a lot of us have frustrations with the responsibilities and authority that our trustees have taken upon themselves, or where they're sending out letters outlining the responsibilities of a trustee that includes filling potholes and things like that. Unfortunately, there has been that space created by the vagueness of our bylaws. It doesn't make it right, it doesn't give them grounds to stand on, but hopefully that makes sense, that where our bylaws are not clear, it does open the door for individual interpretation. Okay, this is where we have to go outside our bylaws, because we don't exist in a bubble, even though our subdivision has been operating as though we exist in a bubble or a vacuum for the last 60 years. There is actually state level accountability for our homeowners association. And we have looked into the state of Missouri statutes because these statutes regulate the governance of various types of nonprofit associations, including homeowners associations. The county actually doesn't have anything to do, like they don't claim any responsibility or authority for the homeowners associations. We actually skip the county, go straight to the state. The Missouri Nonprofit Corporation Act went into effect in 1995, and as long as our original bylaws and later amendments don't contradict the 1995 nonprofit corporation laws, they are considered grandfathered in. So there are maybe some areas in our bylaws that are not exactly the same as the state level laws, but as long as they don't directly conflict with the laws, because our subdivision was created before these laws went into place, they're kind of considered grandfathered in. The problem is that there are some places in our subdivision governing documents where there are contradictions. They do actually conflict with state law, with the Missouri statutes. So I'm just gonna give a couple of examples. Again, we could spend way too much time on this. I just wanna kind of give some examples so we're all on the same page. So, Missouri Statute 355.321, a board of directors must consist of 3 or more persons. Our bylaws say no more than 3. State statutes say no fewer than 3. So this locks us in legally to a situation where we are supposed to have at all times 3 board members, 3 trustees. And so we have actually been in violation of state law for, well, at various points during the existence of our subdivision. And we are currently in violation by at least 1 seat, technically 2. Okay, a board of directors must consist of 3 or more persons with the number specified in or fixed in accordance with the articles or bylaws. The number of directors may be increased or decreased, but to no fewer than 3. From time to time by amendment to or in the manner prescribed in the articles or bylaws. So we currently have 1 legitimate trustee. And so we are out of compliance by 2 seats on our board of trustees. Statute 355.431, a corporation shall have a chairman or president, a secretary, and a treasurer. Chairman, secretary, treasurer, and such other officers as are appointed by the board. But of course, our bylaws say we can't have more than 3. So those are the 3 roles we are supposed to have filled in this subdivision. At this point, as far as we're aware, Dee says that she is the treasurer. So we have a treasurer. She may do the work of a secretary as well, but we are still missing 2 of the required board positions. This is a little snide, I guess, but it's worth noting that there's no board position called pothole filler.
It's valid.
We're to have a chairman or president, a secretary, and a treasurer, in order to be in compliance with state regulations.
Just one,
Sure.
she was voted to be treasurer.
She was, okay,
Treasurer.
so that is
Right.
officially her title.
If you say so,
Well-
I don't recall that.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
recall
might
what her
be
title
misspeaking
was.
Then it seemed to me that when Judy stepped down,
That was,
that Dee was approached to take over the treasurer.
The way it went is, when I asked her to be a trustee, she said only if she could do the book,
Which is all that we're asking her to do.
same thing. So she volunteered for that before she ever
Yeah,
got put on the registry.
okay.
I would like to point out, just because a lot of things have been negative, and yes, she is rude. She does a fantastic job with the limited funds that she has.
I agree.
Holy hell, guys. I can't even believe we get our streets plowed with how little
Yep.
funds she takes in, which is a whole other problem in and of
Well,
itself.
and that's a point that we did want to clarify, because I know there have been some remarks made, speculations made about financial corruption, that sort of thing.
I have never once thought that.
We have seen no evidence. He even went through all the bank accounts.
Right.
There's no evidence of financial corruption.
No, there's just not enough financial income.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
It's more along the lines of a negligence, a neglect to plan ahead, to look at the financial realities on the ground and adjust accordingly.
Well said.
I can say we have lived in the neighborhood for only 5 years this month. And this last winter was probably the best plow we had received because it actually went through the entire subdivision more than once with salt and plow. There were at least one winter in the 5 years that we've been here that we didn't get plowed at all. And one year I clearly remember they stopped at our property at 6001 on the corner, and Randy would drive up and down the road to like flatten the snow, I guess,
Make it ice.
and just, you know, whatever effort you want to say, but like it didn't really help. And then I know that there was some headache for Dee because there was an individual that was trying to take it upon himself to plow when they have contracted someone else to plow, and they made a big deal out of that. And that person basically said, you know, F off, because he's going to plow anyway to make sure it was done. So I have seen there has been a gradual like improvement of the road, because at one point Dee's thought process was everyone should just stay home. And even though,
Get out and shovel.
Just
whatever.
stay-
Yeah, we
Stay
stayed
home.
home.
and
Go to a
even,
hotel.
yeah.
She said before, go to a hotel.
And even though that may work for some, it doesn't work for a lot of families that still have to provide, you know. But like this past winter was probably the best, and I hope that that will stay in place, you know. But as far as like the potholes and stuff, that's still money that is coming out of all of our dues to fix the potholes, and it is like a Band-Aid on top of a Band-Aid. But if dues were raised, perhaps it could lead to a path where we could have pavement done.
Yeah, and I've had these conversations and projections of what that could be. Dee's position is that there's individuals within the subdivision that can't afford an increase. And so she's willing to sacrifice everyone else for these paths, you know, to make sure that they aren't inconvenienced or, you know, challenged by that economic responsibility.
Yeah.
And we will definitely talk more about the road
But
issue. Okay, so those are just a couple of examples where our bylaws are not in accordance with state law for associations like ours. Additionally, our governing documents fail to offer specific guidance on some crucial aspects of governance, such as a requirement for an annual meeting. The reason why our trustees have gotten away with not having an annual meeting is because they are looking in the bylaws and not seeing anything that specifies they have to have an annual meeting. But this is, again, where I come back to the point that our subdivision doesn't exist in a vacuum. You know, we are actually subject to state laws, and statute 355231 states a corporation with members shall hold a membership meeting annually at a time stated in or fixed in accordance with the bylaws. The full statute allows for holding meetings more often than annually, but it sets the once a year as the minimum. At the annual meeting, the president and chief financial officer shall report on the activities and financial condition of the corporation. So the things that, you know, she puts in her annual financial report really should also be presented at an annual meeting. Number 2, the members shall consider and act upon such other matters as may be raised consistent with notice requirements. So again, if there are issues arising in the subdivision through the course of the year, that's where you put together your list of, like, here are the issues we're going to vote on at the annual meeting, and then you come together and you vote on those matters at the annual meeting. Very straightforward stuff. And the state statutes are pretty clear on these very foundational expectations. Our bylaws offer no guidance for removing a trustee from their position. But the state statutes do outline the way these things are to be handled. We have received a number of remarks, read a number of comments indicating that there are homeowners who would like to see our current trustees removed and replaced. We do agree that we need at least 2 more trustees, 2 new trustees. I mean, that's just to be in compliance with state law, but additionally, we need some new blood. The question is, so we agree that we need new trustees. The question though is anyone willing and qualified to step in and do the job? Not just the administrative work, but also there is some more physical maintenance work that needs to be done. And as much as we are saying that, filling potholes is not a requirement of a trustee, if the subdivision cannot financially afford to contract that work out, even if we raise dues tomorrow, there would still be a gap of time where our finances have not caught up to the maintenance needs of the subdivision. And so we still would be looking at there being some maintenance and physical requirements for a trustee. So we agree we need new trustees. There are some practical questions that come along with that, and the biggest one is anyone willing and able and qualified and interested? So we've already talked about the letter that Dee sent out this May, announcing that Mr. Martin had stepped down and that there would be a trustee election. She asked that any eligible and interested parties contact her to be considered for the position. As far as we know, no candidate stepped forward, so no vote has been held. And so this does kind of raises 2 questions. If no one stepped forward and sort of put their candidacy out there, is this because we are completely lacking any viable candidates at this moment? And by viable, I do want to make clear that I mean someone with the interest to do the job, the time and physical capacity to do the job, and the qualifications to do the job, such as being up to date on your dues, having basic bookkeeping abilities, things like that. So are we just in a situation where nobody qualifies in all 3 of those categories? Which is kind of like,
If I might offer,
Yeah.
I don't feel the physical qualification. I don't think that in today's day and age, I think we'd be better suited with a business manager kind of concept rather than somebody physically going out and plugging these holes. I don't think that that's a requirement of a trustee. I think these are volunteer positions. So if you're counting on a pothole being filled on demand, that's a difficult